This isn't a video I wanted to make, and I know that's what every single YouTuber on the platform says. I've even criticized people of making that claim before they make a video, but this is a really sad situation regarding a YouTuber, and originally I wasn't really going to talk about it, but there's been some updates recently, and this is huge. Now, I don't think this is a brave statement to make, but the internet over the past couple of years just seems to be getting worse and worse. I mean, granted, it's been never good. You've had, like, you know, Xbox Live chat in the early 2010s, and the mass amount of hate and slurs you'd get thrown your way just for basically existing. But I feel recently the amount of like hatred and vitriol through online discourse and conversations, it's now just become completely unprecedented. And the scariest thing is as well, it's become completely normalized. I mean, I'm not making any kind of like Hippocrates or Socrates statements here. There's no deep philosophy. It's pretty obvious that when you talk about someone or talk to someone on the internet, there's a filter there. So chances are you're probably going to be a little bit more extreme than if you were talking to them in person. So there was a well-known YouTuber who also ran a fox sanctuary, and unfortunately, she decided to take her own life. That was after getting a bunch of hate and criticism from people online. And at the minute, she's left behind her foundation, as well as her widowed husband and a young daughter. And it seems, after looking into this, it basically all revolves around harassment she was receiving online. Now, there have been benefits to anonymity, and there are definitely some downsides, like I'm talking about today. This is one of the worst cases of harassment I've ever seen someone go through. Now, in the past 24 hours, a lot has happened, especially that the people who basically attacked her and harassed her constantly, they've actually been kind of like named and shamed publicly. I will go into that later. I don't want to just make the entire video about these, like, you know, horrible people who basically made this woman make the final decision. I think it'd be more important in this video to kind of like, you know, cherish her life, her achievements, and the kind of things that she did. So back in March 2013, there was a woman called Michaela, and she posted her first video onto the YouTube channel SaveAFox. It's a harmless video. She's basically talking about how to look after and care for a snapping turtle if you're keeping one as a pet. It's pretty much just informational stuff. And over the years, Michaela's channel actually kept posting informative content surrounding care for different kinds of animals. Her passion and intelligence for these kinds of topics basically snowballed her channel into getting 2.4 million subscribers, basically spreading awareness on animal welfare, and also helped found the SaveAFox Foundation. World Animal News actually gives quite a lot of detail about her life in a recently published article, showing that this wasn't really for money or for like fame, YouTube success. It was basically just a genuine drive to try to help others. At age 15, Michaela rescued and raised her first fox, marking the beginning of her journey. By 18, she'd earned her license as a wildlife rehabilitator and pursued studies to become a veterinary technician. However, she ultimately found her true calling in rescuing captive-born domestic foxes. And that's exactly what she did. So by around 2017, she actually had her own foundation where she would rescue foxes that were usually in poor or abusive conditions and basically raise them and give them a better standard of living. So her journey actually started when she rescued 3 foxes from a fur farm. Now, fur farms, if you haven't heard of them, they are just completely dystopian, whether you believe in, you know, like vegan lifestyle or, you know, eating meat and you don't care. Like, regardless, these farms are just, they're vile. They basically breed these foxes with the intent of like killing them and skinning them, usually giving them hormones and stuff to make them fatter. Yeah, okay. Not the right word to use, but they literally become larger, so their pelts are bigger for when they're killed. And they're just kept in these like cages all day, basically getting no freedom, because what's the point? It's not like the fur quality is going to be any worse. It's usually mink, foxes, chinchillas, but some countries as well also allow cats and dogs to be farmed. So she was attending college to be a veterinarian technician, but she dropped out and basically started to try to rescue more animals. Yet, despite this seeming really altruistic and just a great thing for everyone, there were still people that took issue with her. The biggest offender and the most amount of hate she got was actually from the SaveAFox snark subreddit, which unsurprisingly has now been shut down by moderators. Now, I get it, I'm an old man, I'm pushing 30, but honestly, I did not know what snark subreddits were until recently. It's more on that kind of H3 side of the internet where they seem to be more popular. I mean, the only thing I can really seem to gather from snark subreddits is they're usually rent-free about a particular creator or a person, and they're usually ran by about 90% women. I mean, me personally, I wouldn't need my own snark snark subreddit because my own subreddit hates me enough. But some people have actually been archiving on Wayback Machine all the things that were being said on the subreddit. Now, a lot of these posts that were made on the subreddit just seem to be absolutely like nothing burger criticisms, like posting that an animal hasn't shown up for a video in a while, or posting when an animal has died under their watch. I mean, what she was doing was for a really noble cause, but unfortunately, animals would still die under their care. You know, if you have like a fox, for example, that's just been raised in captivity legally, it can't actually be released in the wild. It would have no idea how to fend for itself. So what SaveAFox would do would actually take care of the fox until it would die. And keep in mind as well, animals like foxes have really short lifespans, only around like 3 to 4 years. And considering SaveAFox has been running since like 2017, there would be a lot of animals that died. Now, I do also want to mention here as well that the Wayback Machine, it's not really showing images or comments, so some of the context here is missing. I'm kind of just going off titles alone, but even then, it just seems to be very like pointless criticisms to make. And I do think that there's a huge irony as well that Michaela was basically spending her life for the betterment of animals, and people would endlessly criticize her online, probably not even doing a tenth of the goodwill work that she did. And I get it, you know, running an animal shelter, it can be really unpredictable. There can be some huge drawbacks there, some consequences. But, you know, at the end of the day, at least she was actually doing something. I even saw one person saying that even though she was rescuing these foxes from fur farms, she was actually directly supporting fur farms by buying fox cubs that have been rejected by their mothers, arguing that the money used was just going to keep funding fur farms. But again, it's one of those scenarios where it's like, if she didn't make that choice, the fox cubs probably just would have been killed anyway. I've always just found it weird how people get absolutely mind broken over that stuff. It's like, these are industries that want to increase profits more than anything else. There was like an adult animated show, I'm not sure whether it was like South Park or Family Guy or something, but there was this one scene where they were showing like chick culling, like chicks being separated, the unwanted ones just being like ground down because it was the most efficient way to do so. And I swear, like seeing that as a kid, it absolutely mind broken me. So now we've laid a little bit of backstory, but on the 23rd of June, the SaveAFox YouTube channel posted a video titled An Unimaginable Loss for the Rescue, where Ethan notes that Michaela was on the autism spectrum, and that allowed her to really hyper focus on her work saving animals.
As many of you know, she was on the autism spectrum, and while that made her life very difficult, it allowed her to hyper focus on one thing, and that one thing was obviously animals.
According to Ethan, she would spend every waking hour of her life trying to help and rescue animals, to the point that she'd actually end up neglecting her own bodily needs like eating and sleeping, since she had so much love and fixation on basically caring for these animals and wanted to spend her life aiding them, basically creating these incredibly strong bonds with any creature she took in, not just the foxes.
She put the animals' well-being over her own time and time again. She would forgo sleep, eating, and showering if there was an animal that needed her help. And it was not just foxes. I've seen her help birds, reptiles, sheep, squirrels. I truly believe when it came to animals, she could do anything.
Now, thankfully, even though she isn't here anymore, it seems that the channel will still be run and the foundation will still go ahead. Ethan will basically do everything in his power to keep the SaveAFox initiative going. He does state in the video this is what Michaela really would have wanted for the initiative and the foundation to keep going.
She was not just a rescuer, but an advocate. Her legacy is SaveAFox. And despite her being the most important part of that, I am not going to let it stop here. I will do whatever I can to see SaveAFox keep moving forward to save as many lives as possible. I gave Michaela all of my love and energy, and I will do the same with this rescue going forward. We can continue to help the many helpless animals that need us and educate and bring awareness to everyone. This is what Michaela would want, and I have to see her goals and dreams be realized.
Ethan then goes on to talk about Michaela separately from SaveAFox. Michaela as a mother and also as a wife, and saying that that love and passion really didn't stop at just the rescue project.
Aside from being the amazing superhero of animals, Michaela was also a wonderful wife and a caring mother. Every day I would wake up to a list from her on exactly what we needed to accomplish in the day. Her work ethic was, for lack of better words, relentless.
He says that they spent basically every waking moment together, and genuinely, I cannot even imagine the unbearable pain that he's going through right now. Ethan basically describes it in the video as half of him is missing.
I have never shared a bond with anyone the way I have with her. We spent nearly every moment of every day together, And now half of me is missing.
But honestly, massive respect to him. The fact that he was able to, you know, get the camera out, record this video, you know, not being a complete, you know, crying mess, which would make total sense considering everything that's happened, but he's still able to deliver this message and talk about Michaela in such a positive way. It really shows like great character of him, and I think Michaela had an amazing partner as well. He also speaks about how much of a good mother Michaela was to their daughter Freya, actually like carrying on her values by teaching their daughter Freya to treat animals with respect and how to care for them.
But despite all of this, she was a best friend to Freya. And every day she would teach her how to interact with respect and care for the animals here. They would go on pony rides together, swing in the fox yards, and take care of Freya's little cockroaches. The first thing Freya would want every morning is mommy.
Following this, Michaela's mental health is then discussed, where Ethan basically explains the struggles that he faced due to her autism. There was also depression, BPD, borderline personality disorder, and other issues. Therapy, medication, nothing really seemed to work for her.
For her entire life, she struggled. She struggled with autism, with depression, with borderline personality disorder, and more. She was always in and out of different kinds of therapy, trying various mood stabilizers and meds, but nothing really seemed to help.
And that's one of the biggest hurdles with anything related to the mind, you know, mental health. Like usually there isn't like a cure-all method. Sometimes meds can work, sometimes therapy can work, but a lot of the times they might not actually work. But again, though, the fact that she had all these mental health issues and was still able to persevere, like that's really commendable. And then Ethan gets around to the topic of the hate Michaela was receiving online. He discusses that it actually wasn't just the hate brigade or even the snark subreddits, but people in real life and even at other animal foundations.
For a few years, a group of people had been throwing dirt on Michaela's name and the rescue. Most of these are people she knew, and some of them are other animal sanctuaries. They consistently spread ridiculous claims and rumors, and being the sensitive human that she was, Michaela took it all to heart. And it hurt her. It hurt her a lot. But she pushed through.
Now, I find it insane that he said this, like that other foundations would actually try to drag you down as well. I mean, surely if you have an issue with the way that one person is running like a sanctuary or something, you'd get in contact with them about it. Ethan would claim that these other sanctuaries would basically spread just completely baseless, untrue rumors about her to try and discredit her. But then to make things worse, a lot of this similar criticism would actually come from close friends. And Ethan believes that this is one of the major reasons why she took her own life. The worst thing about this entire situation is how easily a lot of it could have just been avoided. Like, there is basically zero benefit for spreading hate online. I get it, right? We've all got the boys group chat where, you know, you just talk a bunch of shit about people all the time. We all do it. It's human. If those messages got leaked, would you look like a very petty, cowardly person? Yeah, probably. But I feel here a lot of the hatred she was getting was actually stemming from jealousy. And it was just that kind of self-hatred and then that need to kind of project it onto someone else. Ethan even says something similar within the video, basically saying that, you know, you can talk shit about someone, it's fine, but you really don't know what kind of damage you're doing to someone behind closed doors.
She couldn't bear what she was feeling any longer. And she ended her life. And it breaks my heart that someone who is selfless and devoted her life to animals could have so much negativity pointed at her. Why? That's all I can ask is why. In a world that's filled with darkness, she was just light. She was just light. And to those of you that pushed her to this, every one of you that had been responsible for making her feel this way, I wish you had to see me find her. And I wish you had to watch me perform CPR on her for 15 minutes until the first responders arrived. And I wish you had to watch helplessly as paramedics attempted to revive her lifeless body. And I wish you had to hear the screams and the cries of her family. I wish you had to see tiny heartbroken Freya try to understand why she could never see her mommy again. I wish you understood what you were doing before you did it, before it had to go this far. And I wish you understood that words do have real and terrible consequences. If you only have negative garbage to say, just shut up. And if you are feeling lost and hopeless, please reach out to someone, whether it's friends and family or calling a hotline. And to everyone else, please keep an eye on those around you. Look for the signs because they are there. Do something or say something before it's too late.
It is one of those situations that's really heartbreaking because, again, I get it. There is so much hatred on the internet. And even like I said earlier, you know, I'm not going to act like I'm some like moral paradigm and I haven't, you know, like said or done like snide things or, you know, said things that I regret. Everyone has done that. But it's so obvious here that this was basically a dedicated harassment campaign. And the well got poisoned so badly that it basically spread to like people that she believed were close friends. And I think I can agree with a lot of people, especially if you're on the internet. You know, someone talks shit about you online, kind of hurts, kind of sucks. You get a thick skin. But when it's from someone that you actually trust, that will hurt infinitely more than what some random 5-follower Andy says on Twitter. So we've talked about Michaela, the life that she led, the great foundation that she founded and is still being ran, even though she isn't with us anymore. But, and I did say I would talk about this at the start of the video, I'm going to talk about the supposed people who were harassing her. Now, again, I do want to say the things that these people have said and the things these people have said in response to being called out is abhorrent. I'm not going to reach the point and say that these are the people that made Michaela take her own life. We will never know that, but they definitely contributed to the amount of harassment she was getting. So there is one person in particular who's being absolutely dogged on right now. I'm not going to name them for obvious reasons, because what I've seen be documented, what they've said about Michaela is horrendous. I think we've got a situation here where it's like one person has made the decision to take their own life. If another person decides to take their own life because of the harassment they're receiving, I just don't really think that that benefits anyone, even if what this person said was just absolutely horrendous and just so evil. So we've got evidence of this person, and they were basically having a hate campaign against Michaela like all the way back in 2023. They posted a list onto Reddit of bad things that Michaela's done, apparently, such as buying foxes from fur farmers, not actually rescuing them, which is a point that we already covered, by the way, possibly doing drugs and using animals for financial gain. Now, since this is being pulled from an archive, not an actual live post, a lot of the sources that this person cited, they don't work or they don't actually lead anywhere. We don't actually know the sources for these claims that are being made or the evidence to back it up. Although one link did actually work for me, and it basically led to a Tumblr thread where people were just discussing fur farms. And if that's the level of evidence that's being provided here, it's not really too much of a groundbreaking discovery. So usually if you get called out for harassing someone and then the unthinkable happens, you'd probably do everything you can to keep a low profile, right? To stay away from the internet, maybe go through a rebrand, change your name. This is not what this person done. They actually made a post on Reddit trying to defend themselves. You people called me slurs, threatening to dox me, which has actually happened to them and their parents, and telling me to kill myself as well. And somehow you're the good guys. When I first found out what happened, in the very heat of the moment, I felt no remorse. Then a pit made itself known in my stomach and began to expand. But how? With the way you people are behaving, the guilt is starting to wane. You probably won't believe me when I say this, but I was never a part of the SAF snark subreddit. I never even knew it existed before today. If Michaela cannot be blamed for her fox's easily preventable deaths, then I cannot be blamed for her own death. I simply compiled information they had given me. This is not bullying. I made one post putting together various sources, and that was it. get a fucking life. So as you can see, they're definitely not backing down. And then they made another post where they basically doubled down. I'm not backing down. Fuck off. You act like I went to Michaela's house, sliced her open, and left her to bleed out. All I did was put together a few sources pointing out some things she did wrong. I had no hand in bullying of any kind. Even if I did, you're no better or calling me slurs, telling me you're going to dox me and sending me instructions on how to kill myself. Now, one thing this person did was try to wipe pretty much any social media they had as quickly as possible. Twitter, Blue Sky, Fair Affinity, it's all gone. And most of it now is only really accessible through web archives. Now, I think the way that this person responded to being accused was incredibly immature, just vindictive, and it's almost like they're trying to make themselves a victim instead of Michaela. You know, like using that gruesome detail about like, you know, it's like I sliced her out. Like this is someone that's taken their own life. Like, do you really think it's a good idea to be using that kind of verbiage? Now, one thing I have noticed on the internet is when you're hated enough or you don't have any kind of respect, people can just run with things with basically next to no proof apart from maybe a screenshot, and people will take that as gospel. That is exactly what is happening with this individual now, because I've seen some crazy things. Like, for example, claims that they've been into zoophilia, with some screenshots floating around about how they wanted to, like, you know, do things with their cat, but they're fighting the, like, really crazy stuff. The only backing I can even see is like a single Discord screenshot, and that's it. An image that could very easily be edited. Again, even though this person is probably the single most hated person on the internet right now, I do think at the same time, basically anything can be said now and people will believe it, because a lot of people are angry with what happened with Michaela and they're basically looking to take that frustration out on someone. I mean, I have seen multiple times being mentioned in like their Twitter bio or Blue Sky or whatever that they're against that kind of stuff, the zoophilia. So you either basically have two outcomes here. You'd either have someone that was lying to make this person that was harassing Michaela look even worse, or you've got the biggest case of projection in human history. They're against something, but then secretly in private, they were kind of into it. But again, I think this takes away the whole point of Michaela, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to really talk about it at all, or at least towards the end of the video, because this isn't really what we should be focusing on. I think it should be Michaela's memory. But again, it's just a really sad example of people thinking that they've got this ability to do like internet justice. And you can even see as well, it's like, you know, she took her own life, and then some of the people involved, they've admitted themselves they just basically have next to no guilt. And that is a terrifying thing. That is very scary. The fact that you could push someone to making like the final choice, and even then it's like, anyways, like that's terrifying. But again, I just hope Ethan's doing all right, the family's doing all right. It's just a really sad and horrible situation. I was kind of on the fence if I wanted to talk about this or not, but I feel like everything that's came out and the kind of lack of remorse that some of the people have had, yeah, I think now it's kind of fair to talk about this.